Picard, Season 2, Episode 2. Let's go. We see Earth covered in a shield that looks like outlined orange hexagons that go all the way to the outside of the atmosphere. There are sirens blaring in the background. On that Earth, we zoom to Picard. He's still in his unusually, uncomfortably homey home that is definitely not his home. Q is there explaining that this is not his world. That what did happen no longer happened. The Stargazer, its crew, gone. Q speechifies at him for a little while, and Picard thinks something's wrong with Q. Q takes him back to the harvest 48 hours ago, but it's a different world somehow. Picard's new situation is a penance, Q declares. The Earth is all but dead, with only that grid keeping it viable. Romulans are now slaves in his home. His valet is a synth named Harvey. Through their conversation, as Q explains Picard's new situation, he keeps hinting that this is a mirror universe with the words he's using, familiar titles to old Star Trek episodes. Picard's home is a gruesome display of the battles he's won. Q says the only way to get back is atonement and forgiveness. Though for what? Picard doesn't know. Picard says he won't play, but is interrupted by Harvey, who did not see Q, who is now conveniently gone. This leaves Picard lost, confused. General Picard is a member of the Confederation. Watching himself get a speech in this universe is disturbing. The xenophobia upsets him, and he doesn't care for the usual drink of his counterpart, Colombian roast, black. Harvey can see the discomfort and researches Laris for Picard, whom he'd asked for earlier. She's not present on Earth, but she and her husband had been killed in an uprising some time ago. Upset again, Picard has to get ready to go to the palace for its eradication day. Seven is asleep in bed and is awoken. She rises and looks around quite confused because she does not remember being here. Obviously, she was just aboard the Stargazer. She catches herself in a mirror and immediately realizes that her implants, all of them, they're gone. She's just human now. She gives herself the best human diagnostic she can, checking her senses, all of them one at a time, to make sure that what she's experiencing is real, and without a doubt, it is. Just then, her husband walks in. Yeah, her husband. Yeah, he's the magistrate, and he's married to, get this, President Annika Hansen, who has to get ready for her big speech for Eradication Day. Still in shock, we see her walking with her husband as she tries to get ready for this speech. She asks him questions, and what she'd like to do is see if she can get someone who's on the front of this war they're supposedly fighting. She requests Rios. That is after fumbling Federation and Confederation a little. Rios is on the front line, and through presidential request, he's going to be called back. Aboard the La Serena, Rios is very confused and in the middle of a battle with whom he doesn't know, with what crew he can't find, and he's not sure what he's supposed to be doing. For a moment, there's a short break within the battle, and he's able to talk with another ship who tells him that the Vulcans are getting what they deserve. Yeah, he's fighting with the Vulcans. Suddenly, the two ships again go to battle. There's really nothing he can do but watch. He's not even sure how to fly the controls aboard his ship right now. Thankfully, a message comes in. It's from the president. With a little word fumble, they figure out that both of them are exactly who they are and not where they should be. Rios is quite grateful and happy to come back from the battle. And they're relieved because at least these two know they both know something is wrong. And that something they've both figured out is that someone or something has moved them. Back on Earth that night, there are explosions as a rebellion attack is occurring. Elnor is running through the streets with another rebel. She stops. He's able to kind of question her as to what's going on. She says it's the rebellion. We're taking down this building for the Vulcans, this building for the Andorians. And in the middle of her speech, she's shot He takes off as he's being chased. He's cornered and turns to find that he is now face to face with, thankfully, Rafi. Rafi is dressed like the other soldiers with the addition of a hooded trench coat, it looks like. She shoots the other soldiers, reveals that it's her to Elnor. Elnor, in utter relief, runs to her. They hug. They're both grateful to have found each other, but still very confused as to why they're there, where they're there. And then suddenly other soldiers come out from nowhere. Rafi pulls her gun, holds it to Elnor's head and said, just follow it. We're going to pretend. And she basically Wookiee walks him out Han Solo style. Back to President Hansen, she is figuring out what day today is. It's Eradication Day and why it's so special. She's about to find out because they're going to go down and see Dr. Agnes. She is with the very special guest of honor today. Here we see Agnes in her lab, very stark, very bright. She's talking to her computer programmable kitten, who is kind of snarky, and she remarks that at least she's a better pet programmer here. Agnes is talking to herself, trying to figure out where it is she could be. Like the others, she doesn't know how she got here. She just knows that here is not where she should be. As she's going over the crazier and crazier possibilities, in comes President Annika Hansen, who she immediately is happy to see. Agnes says, 7, and then realizes that someone else has come in and 7 isn't going to work. Through a little bit of back and forth between the husband, 7, and Agnes trying desperately to cover for her faux pas, she makes up some ridiculous story of that it's a nickname and that, hello, Madam President. Agnes is not a good undercover spy. The husband then requests to see the prisoner, aka the reason that today is so special. The prisoner is the Borg Queen, old school version. Both Agnes and 7 are surprised. The Borg Queen can sense that she's alone. The other Borg are gone. She can also sense that those that are here shouldn't be. Someone is out of time. She mixes her words, says some cryptic phrases that make it obvious to those who know what's happening that she can sense something. Time has been broken. 7 explains what the Queen is saying, but tries to cover with how she would have this knowledge by saying it's something that she heard. Borg Queens, they can sense time and space a little different than your average person. It's needed to be able to navigate through transwarp travel. Picard has arrived at the palace. It's a grand compound from the outside. There are soldiers, and on his way in towards the doors, he sees Rafi and Elnor. He convinces the soldiers that he wanted Elnor, and Rafi escorts Elnor with Picard into the palace. As they enter the compound, they are obviously happy to see each other, and they see that 7 is being briefed by the magistrate, her husband. Her husband is annoyed that they're there, but 7 explains that it was her request. After requesting a private meeting, the 4 discuss their situation and try to formulate some sort of a plan of where they should go, how they got there, pretty much every question you could possibly have if you were in this situation. 7 lets them know that the Borg Queen is here and that the Borg Queen believes that time has been broken. Picard agrees. This is not their time, but rather one timeline in which Q went back at some point and changed something. They decide they need to formulate a plan because they need to fix the universe. Q won't do it. At this time, we see Rios' ship coming into orbit around Earth. Here, Girardi is in the lab with the Queen, and in transport, the other 4. They all have a look at the Queen, and the Queen greets Picard as Locutus, the Borg Queen. Picard asks the Borg Queen to look into the past to try and figure out what Q did. She does. Her answer is 2024, Earth, Los Angeles. A watcher is there to help. That's all the information they get. After some discussion of what to do, they decide to pull a let's save the whales maneuver. The difference being the Borg Queen will play Spock's part, watching time to know exactly how to maneuver and when. President Annika Hansen then contacts Rios and asks for transport, including the Queen. Rios attempts. Security will not allow a transport at this time. And then alarms go off, letting them know that the security upgrades that were going to be put in place and that 7 had been briefed on have already been put into place. The next thing to go is communications. Communications had been lost right as Rios was trying to find a space, a gap to try to beam them through. There's usually one. They need to make one that's bigger. And so their plan now is to try and do that as the Borg Queen is being pulled back because Eradication Day has begun. With Elnor, Rafi, Girardi, 7, and Picard there, they are trying to figure out what they can do next as Picard is to go and execute the Borg live on stage. That is actually their opportunity to try to escape. And so, with a plan moderately in place, Picard and 7 head off to stage. Agnes is staying in her lab to try and help break through any security measures. And Rafi and Elnor are off to try and do their part to help Agnes on their end. Now we see a large crowd. It's huge. It's dark outside, but there are spotlights going over the crowd who are excited and waiting for someone to go on this great big red stage. Moments later, we see Picard and 7 walking on, trying to take their places as the crowd goes wild at their entrance. President Annika Hansen then begins her speech. The crowd listens thrilled as she introduces Picard, famous for killing non-humans. Agnes, meanwhile, is working on trying to break down her end of the security issue. Back on stage, Picard, doing his best to play the part, steps forward as the Queen is brought from underneath the stage up for him to execute. The crowd begins to chant, "Kill, kill, kill." Finally, Agnes is able to break through communication with Rios. He currently has a lock on everyone, but he's unable to transport still. Here we see Rafi walk into a room with panels, orange writing on them, and 2 soldiers. Elnor is in cuffs and she's bringing him in, says that Elnor has released a virus into the system and she's going to have to dig it out herself. Tosses them Elnor and says, "Have fun," while she turns to the screens and begins pushing buttons. The 2 soldiers are taking turns, punching and hitting and kicking Elnor, who is taking it without fighting back, as Rafi keeps pushing buttons, attempting to break through security, while the soldiers are too busy to notice what she's doing. It doesn't take long, thankfully, and Rafi takes down the shield and tells Elnor to have at it. It takes very little time for Elnor to take out both soldiers. On stage, Picard has a phaser in hand, pointed at the Queen. He's doing his best to delay and give Agnes the time she needs to break through. While Agnes is busy trying to do this, she and Rios are bantering back and forth, having what could best be called an ex-lovers quarrel, though they aren't really fighting as bantering, oddly. Rafi informs the group she's done her part. She's taken down her end of the security issue. Picard, with his phaser, can't delay any longer. He turns his phaser on the soldiers that are walking up, wondering why he's delaying. He shoots them. At the last minute, just when you think the soldiers are going to turn fire back, Agnes breaks through, and all of them, one by one, are transported up. The Queen has also been transported. Rios is not real pleased to see her, and definitely doesn't want her hooked up to the ship, but Agnes explains this is necessary. All of the crew take stations preparing for a battle, and we see the La Sereno leave space, not at warp, but moving out. It doesn't take long for the Confederation to come after them, and unbeknownst to any of them, something exists. A presidential override turns off their shields, turns off everything. They are dead in the water and being boarded. Soldiers and the magistrate, 7's husband, are now on board, and Elnor has been shot. He's on the ground, breathing, but not in good shape. We see the magistrate holding a phaser to Picard and naming him a traitor. And that's it for this review. We'll have to find out what happens next. If you like what you saw here and want to see more, please like and subscribe. You think the dog's noisy? You're all right.